Welcome back, Tribe. We have a news report here that says U.S. tourism down while more Americans consider moving abroad. Let's see what the mainstream media is saying.
And also from Governor Newsom, well, he is rolling out the red carpet for our neighbors to the north. Watch.
We want to make sure we send a message to our Canadian friends up north to come to a state where 2 million Canadians visited last year, to come visit a state where there's something for everybody. Visit California.
Okay, the governor's invitation comes as the U.S. is tracking a big drop in tourism from around the world. Take a look at this. Travel from Canada and Mexico was down double digits in March. We're also seeing fewer visitors from Western Europe, Central and South Asia, South America, I should say, Asia, Africa, even Australia, really all over the world. We are seeing this big drop. On the flip side, though, more Americans are thinking about moving abroad. That's according to a recent Harris poll. 42% have already considered or plan to consider and relocate outside the U.S.
Why? What's the policies that are driving them there? How do we get to the point where we voted in what they consider devil incarnate Trump? Why would the populace vote for somebody like that in the first place? What leftist policies or liberal democratic values have we pushed on the people so much that they want to vote for a candidate who's promising to break the system? Do they never answer this? Like, just be an independent and think for yourself. Forget conservative or liberal. But why would a candidate like Trump, who 50 years ago, 30 years ago, would have never made it past the preliminary rounds, is now voted in? How far has society fallen to the point where people feel comfortable voting for a guy that promises to make America great again? So that whole mantra is huge with the average American because they don't feel like the country they're living in is great. So imagine like the tone deaf response from the left. And this Harris poll, this is most likely polling mostly lefties anyway. So, close to half of lefties, a lot of conservatives too, thought about going overseas when, liberals were knocking down your door with all those rainbow colored ideologies saying that men could go in women's bathrooms and your little girl can't even have a safe space anymore where to go because some dude with a beard in a dress was going to walk in there. I mean, that was the thing. Amongst all the other policy that people were dealing with, or I should say America in general, when they say woke is broke, or just what happened with the Disney movie right now with Snow White release, Americans in general are sick and tired of ideologies, being shoved down their throat, spoon-fed this shit nonstop. Everywhere you turn, you're being lectured by these people on how America's not good, America sucks, the way you think sucks, your skin color sucks, white supremacy this, blah, 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 privilege that, infinite boxes of victimhood and all this shit. Identify as Americans are sick of that shit, dude. You can't even enjoy a story like Snow White anymore without having that shit shoved down your throat. Crazy. And they're like, how did somebody like Trump voted in? What the fuck? Look in the mirror.
The top expat destination, you guessed it.
Do you want to move to Canada? Because I do.
Look at them.
And I am.
I didn't even see this video, dude. I just saw the title and said, let's cover it. Look at what I'm talking about. Tone deaf.
To Canada? Because I do. And I am.
Of course you do.
I just moved to Toronto, Canada from Raleigh, North Carolina.
My Canadian immigration process starts in about a week.
We can finally say it. We can finally talk about it. We are moving to Canada.
Yes, Canada. So joining me now is Dr. Hisham Jaddoud, professor of hospitality and tourism at USC. Professor, welcome.
So we're losing mostly people that don't matter because if a war were to happen, they wouldn't be picking up arms and fighting to the death to protect the homeland. Okay, great. Okay, great. Fine. The ones who voted for the policies that put a man like Trump in charge are the ones now running away. Great. They don't understand why it's happening. Okay. The very same people that would not defend this nation because they demonize it so much. Okay.
Thank you. Let's start with the tourism trickle-down effect here. How much do states like California rely on international travelers? And to that point, what do you make of the governor's move here to try to lure Canadians?
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, tourism in California is a big business, especially for places like LA and Palm Springs. For example, Palm Springs, California receives over 300,000 Canadian tourists every year, which is a huge number and may have a lot of impact. California as a whole has forecasted to generate $6 billion less in revenues in 2025 compared to 2024. And the big reason behind this deficit, obviously, is the 9% drop in international tourists, mainly from Canada, compared to last year. And California has seen also a 12% drop in Canadian tourists, specifically to the state. And this could have big implications because it does not apply to California only, it applies to different states as well. But specifically to Gavin Newsom's message, I believe that Canadians were quick to respond to the governor's plea by highlighting that the risk of crossing the borders due to the current federal government policies is becoming very risky, and Canadians prefer to stay home and support the Canadian and local tourism. In my view, this is more of emotional. It used to be an emotionally charged issue. Now it's becoming more a safety concern. Canadians crossing the border don't feel safe anymore. All the goodwill from U.S. tourism professionals trying to recover the Canadian tourism may not work because, as I said, this is becoming more of a Canadian safety and security concern than emotional concern. But when Canadian tourists are concerned about their security, it's going to be hard to convince them to come back. So that's some of the concerns we have seen lately in the market, and that impacts different sectors of the industry.
You know, besides COVID, putting that aside, sort of an outlier, have we ever seen a global drop in tourism like this before?
In my view, I would say no, we haven't. The last government actions, I would say, have impacted tourism in California heavily. Canadians have already started diverting their plans, as you mentioned earlier. In hotels, for example, summer 2025 bookings from Canada to the U.S. Have declined by over 70% in the last year. And the airline have also responded to the decreased demand by cutting over 300,000 seats on Canada's U.S. trips between March and August 2025. This is a huge impact. And we see also from Air Canada that was highlighted last week, Air Canada scaled back its flights from Vancouver, reducing trips to California, Miami, Houston, due to the decline in Canadian interest in the U.S. market. We have not seen a decline like this before, and this is going to impact a lot of sectors in the industry, as I mentioned, anything from resorts to hotels to casinos to airlines to travel agencies and what have you. And for example, just an example from last period, we have seen last break in March, California saw a very soft demand in terms of tourism and hospitality. Demand impacted direct and indirect job benefiting from tourism. As I mentioned, direct can cover anything from hotels and resorts, and indirect covers anything from taxi drivers and tour guides.
Alternative point of view on this. I like how they're framing it. I'm neither conservative nor Democrat nor Republican nor whatever. I think it's a two-party system that saves the same masters. I don't give a fuck about any of these rich assholes. They don't speak for the average person. You have to climb out of the mud in order to make it nowadays because they've made it so hard. And that's what I think is actually happening. I think the real issue here is the economy is shit. The jobs don't exist. The wages haven't kept up with inflation. We got priced out of all housing. Groceries are too goddamn expensive. Everything has become so damn expensive and we're forced to penny pinch or cut costs of everything, period. Because these companies are now posting record fucking profits. Somehow, bro, record profits. CEO bonuses, records. They're buying yachts. They're buying private jets. They're flaunting a life that you'll never live. Meanwhile, the average person can't afford to fucking eat anymore. And they're saying, like, why don't people travel anymore? Because the middle class of these countries has disappeared. That's why people aren't traveling. They feel it. Talk to an average person every day and see what their travel plans are. I guarantee they had to make cuts in the last 4 or 5 years alone. We've had to make a lot of cuts. Things have gotten too expensive. The dollar's not going as farther as it used to. The Canadian dollar especially. Here in Europe, they're getting destroyed by migration and the governments are running huge deficits. Canada's having an election soon or some shit like that, I think. And they have their own migration issue, which they just admitted to. That's why Trudeau stepped down. And this is all money. It's all economy. They want to frame it as like, oh, borders are too tight now and like shit's happening because they got 1 or 2 stories where, you know, maybe a border control agent was being a dickhead and denied someone entry into the United States. But for the most part, people were fine crossing and people still are. It's just too damn expensive. It doesn't make sense to go traveling anymore when you're struggling. I think that's what's really happening. I don't know. You tell me.
And gift shops and what have you. So we have not seen a decline like this one before, in my opinion. And in my view, also, even if the trade wars comes down, the damage is already done. And the California markets has seen a lot of cancellations in hotels and restaurants. And wait until June and July, which are the highest and peakest month, and we're going to see higher cancellation numbers as well.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch for that. Professor, thank you so much. Hisham Jadud, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated.
Okay, mainstream liberal news. This guy says, don't visit any state. Spend your money in Canada. Visit Europe or Mexico. You won't be detained there. Look at this is wild, man. Look at the brainwashing machine so you can see what the other guy or the other team is like, because that's what they consider themselves now. They're on sides and shit. It's just politics. These people are supposed to represent all of it. What's wrong with people? What's not to like about being insulted, shot, imprisoned, deported, or denied due process? Do you see how crazy? Yeah, bro, you're going to literally fly into the United States as a Canadian, and you're going to be shot, imprisoned, and deported and denied due process. What? These are the people that watch NBC News. Do you see how dug in they are? Do you see how their identity is tied to the ideology? I am European and I never visited Russia for obvious reasons, nor will I ever visit USA for the same reasons. Why would anyone want to visit a country who would potentially detain you and treat you like a criminal? Mental. You mean being from a country that will detain you and treat you like a criminal for posting a mean tweet? That kind of country? Be the same country that if you try to defend your family and accidentally maim the attacker in any way, you'll get put in jail. The same country, by saying your opinion on what you think about migration, cough UK, will put you in jail, right? Two-tier policing actively being enforced by the courts. Two-tier lawfare. Totally. You mean a country like that, right? Because they're so progressive, so liberal, just bending down to suck the dicks of all the third worlders that are just mass migrating into your country, destabilizing your social system that you've set up, the welfare state for your citizens who actually work and pay taxes in the system. So you could have some dudes that are literally on a fucking piece of shit boat come through, toss their documents in the water, and then be like, I'm 12. Okay, bro, looking like a grown man. And then admitted into your system that you pay taxes into, and then given food stipends, shelter. They don't work for years at a time. They don't integrate. They cause crime. All that shit that you see, all the statistics bear it out. Oh, yeah. But he's from that country. Totally, bro. Amazing. Who knew fascism is bad for tourism? It just goes on and on when you read it. Declaring that you intend to ruin Canada's economy unless they become a 51st state doesn't sit well with Canadians. Here in Canada, Canadians are staying home and making the biggest impact on our own economy. We are speaking and being heard with our own money. So proud of our country. Moved my wife, daughter, my elderly mother to Rosarito, Mexico. Paid $360,000 for a huge house, overlooked the ocean, no stress, quiet life. Will never look back and thinking if I made a mistake. Good job, bro. That's actually a cool outcome. The man's retired on the beach. Anyways, regardless, just know neither of these sides, teams, whoever the fuck they claim they are, care about you. They only serve the people that fund their campaigns, the multi-billionaire donor class. Those are called the elites. And what the average person wants is irrelevant.